And welcome to week 10 of DB2. Every week we say it. Seems like it's flying by. David Brem here with Daniel Butler as always. Butler, how did week 9 treat you?
Pretty well, honestly. Taking home a dub this week, which is good. But from an injury and a waiver wire, well, let's start with injuries. Overall, very positive week. There's always a few injuries, but this was really maybe the best week so far. I mean, I'm just going
Yeah,
off
we've
of
had a
recent.
couple of fairly simple ones, but this one wasn't bad at all.
There's really not any big injuries this week. We've had a lot of big time players go down. So, yeah, this was a good week, I guess, for that. Obviously, there's still some names to talk about that did go down. Some players' values that went way up because of it. James Conner, but yeah, he was incredible. But we're going to talk about a lot of well, not a lot of injuries because there's not a ton. Also, some waiver wire pickups, just a few. At this point in the season, I was thinking about, these, certain people to pick up. You kind of, you got your roster, like
Yeah,
there's,
you kind of know.
it's tough to
Unless somebody
it's
goes
tough to
crazy.
really find a big time player this time that at this time in the year that we haven't already discussed or is already not already owned or whatever. Like everybody's picked up these guys, but there's still a few names whenever injuries happen, especially or players that just outperform what we expect. And I don't know. I guess I'll just lead with that. I do want to talk because it is injury. It's not really an injury, but the number one waiver claim I think this week. So I know this is going a little out of order, but then after this we can go whatever order you want.
Oh, no, you're
But
fine.
kind of transition into that. Jordan Howard
Mhm.
for the Philadelphia Eagles end up he's on the practice squad. Didn't even know he was in Philly. So he was called up. Obviously, they had injuries going on, and he had 17 carries in this game. Philly ran the ball 40 times, 39 times to be exact. So 17 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown in this game. So really solid. Jalen Hurts was really bad. Like overall,
Mhm.
like I shouldn't say he was bad. He maybe not given enough. Like he ran 10 times. He was. I think a lot of it just wasn't passing. Comes out that 11 of 17 for 162 yards. He only had 4 different receivers that caught balls, so that stinks for value for running backs because none of them are running backs. But still, this team is a very run-heavy team. They love to run the ball. This is back-to-back weeks. Last week they just ran it all down Detroit's throat, and then this week again they ran 39 times. So how do you feel about Jordan Howard as a pickup for a running back streaming option? Not really. It's really probably only going to be a few weeks until I guess Miles Sanders comes back if he
Yeah.
comes back in a few weeks.
Yeah, I think for the short term, absolutely. I think he's the pickup. He's proven to be valuable. I mean, he's number 16 as we speak right now, on the week. 13 points in a PPR format, which isn't crazy, but not a whole lot of crazy performances this week. So I mean, that lands him in the top 20. And if he is still available in your league, like to snag a guy who's going to be top 20, I think he's probably going to be top 20 at least for the next couple weeks. I think it's a solid this deep in the season to be able to pull out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he didn't even have any catches. He's not really a PPR type guy. So in standard leagues or half point PPR
Yeah,
leagues that
moves
don't
up a little bit.
prioritize, receiving as much, he's actually more valuable in those leagues. So definitely, Jordan Howard is to me the number one pickup. A lot of times this time of year, it was last week as well. Running backs are the pickups. You can pick up wide receivers that can give you maybe 10 points or hopefully a little bit more. Maybe they'll give a little bit less, but those are kind of all over the place, right? You can pick one up anytime, which is why running backs are so valuable. You can't just pick up a running back that can give you 12 points. It's really, really hard. So that's why running backs continue to be the top of the waiver wire. But there's wide receivers out there as well that we love that you might pick up. Someone like a
Yeah.
Van Jefferson that I big fan of if he's still out there. But I don't really want to talk about him because I've talked so much about him. I do
No,
want to
I do
talk.
want to touch. I
Okay, go
want to
ahead.
touch on one other running back real quick while we're here because it's kind of the same situation. It's not necessarily an injury that did it, but a guy we've talked about a little bit, Devontae Freeman, is still out there in a lot of leagues. I feel like, and we've talked about Baltimore. We don't know really to trust him. He had a really nice week this week, um, and just a guy that could be out there that could help your team. Like I said, we're deep in the season. You're not going to get these home run guys, but he had 14 fantasy points this week, had 13 attempts. He looks like he's going to get those touches. and just a guy, like I said, could be a solid add to your team depending on what your bench looks like, and maybe if you still have bye weeks left over at the running back position, a guy you could start.
Yeah, and in a deeper league, Le'Veon Bell as well, because this team has, they're really really good offense. Lamar Jackson, I think, is MVP right now. So you have the
I mean, he
MVP
put
on
44
offense.
on me this week, so
So yeah, he's incredible. Ran for 120 yards this week. Devontae Freeman ran for 79 yards. Le'Veon Bell ran for 48 on 11 carries. Freeman had 13 carries. So Freeman also had a couple catches and a receiving touchdown. So yeah, both of those running backs, it seems like they're doing sort of by committee. So you don't love
yeah.
that for if you own one of them, but obviously in Freeman should be the guy I think you would want.
In that committee, is
And
Freeman's
then
the one you want. Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell, who played only 25% of snaps in this game.
He's
Freeman
110 years old.
Freeman played 60%. I don't even know the ages. They're probably close to age, but
They actually probably are pretty close.
Freeman 60%, almost 60% of snaps. So clearly the guy you would want to add between those two. And given week, obviously Bell might out fantasy point gain him, but Freeman's still the guy. It seems.
It would seem. So, do you want to stick to running backs, and then we can transit? You want to do Chase Edmonds?
Yeah,
real quick,
that's actually the name I was going to talk about before you interrupted me. So,
sorry, I had a point.
No,
I'll just sit here and smile on camera.
I would have not brought up Freeman. So there you go. Yeah. So Chase Edmonds goes down here. There's not really much to say because obviously, Chase Edmonds and James Conner are both 100%. It should be pretty much 100% owned.
Yeah.
So Conner, you maybe could have picked up earlier in the season if he got dropped, but pretty much these guys are 100% owned. So, and Conner's been great. Even he's been outproducing Edmonds for a few weeks now. He's been good. But yeah, Edmonds going down. High ankle sprain. I think I saw he's going to be out at least a few weeks. So James Conner, he was incredible this game. He looked really good. We also see Eno Benjamin getting 9 carries as well. He's like they're not going to give James Conner probably 25. He got 21 this time. This is kind of I feel like the ceiling of rushes.
Seems right.
So Benjamin in a deeper league also got a touchdown is probably a solid play. But yeah, I mean obviously the Conner is the guy you want to own. Benjamin has relevancy, I guess, if you're in a super deep league. But yeah, it's unfortunate if you're an Edmonds owner. But honestly, he's been a little disappointing for. I would say not disappointing because he's been okay, but Connor's been the guy. Like he's the touchdown guy, he's the goal line guy. He's outproduced Edmonds for last week. They were pretty much the same, and he's been ahead of him basically every week since week 3. So it's been Conner, and now even more so. Conner is, I think, borderline top 10. This offense is really good, even with Colt McCoy at quarterback. It's still, it still is efficient. So. I think Conner is like it's hard to say because like there's so many good running backs like where you would put him over, but I mean now that he's the guy, like
I think at least while he is the guy, I think there's no question. Yeah. I think they're going to lean on him, especially I'm not 100% sure how long Murray's going to be out. But with him out, no.
Murray. Murray, yeah. I think will be back. I think
Willie's going to be back. Okay,
I think.
Like he'll take a little bit away from Conner. But I think with Edmonds out, I think Connor's almost a surefire, at least flirting with the top 10 on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and also Colt McCoy ran the ball 7 times. He's been watching Kyler a little bit. He's thinking
he's like, I can do that. You can't, Colt. You just can't.
But a really nice game by Colt McCoy. I don't want to undersell that. He was actually really good in this game, and Arizona just took care of business easily. Controlling this game, so
yeah,
a beatdown.
Yeah, and I think the last running back, at least that I have on my list that we want to kind of talk about real quick, is Nyheim Hines. Ended up top 5 this week. Colts had 2 running backs in the top 5. Jonathan Taylor, obviously still the guy, had a crazy good day, but Nyheim Hines got some work. He only 6 carries for 74 yards. I mean, did what he needed to do with his carries. Tacked on 4 catches on top of that, had a really nice day, and a guy that I think in deeper leagues, especially, but even in like a 12-teamer in a flex, in a pinch on a bye week, could be a guy you plug in there.
Yeah, and maybe even more likely a running back 2 at this point because you got your buys and injuries. He might even have to be in there as a running. No, you don't love it obviously, but he only had 6 carries, so you're like, yeah, but he almost was on the field half the time. This was, obviously Jonathan Taylor was incredible. He had that one long touchdown run, which really helps his fantasy value. For Hines, obviously, if Taylor was in that snap, can you like he would have had 200
Yeah.
yards and 3 touchdowns? I'm assuming he would have
Yeah.
scored a touchdown on that play too, because Taylor's incredible. But yeah, Hines really involved in the passing game as well.
And he's more of an upside play. Like he has had quite a few weeks where he didn't really do much. He wasn't super involved, but I almost wonder if Indianapolis is seeing these other teams and their workhorse is going down, and they're like, hey, maybe we scale back a little bit, let Hines get some of these touches, give Taylor a little bit of a break, and if they're going to do that going forward, like I said, could definitely be some value.
It's kind of crazy to think, like, I'm not saying Jonathan this maybe he was drafted as running back 9, but it's kind of crazy to think like he might be the best running back in fantasy. Like, I mean, I think there's an argument, right? Like he's
with Henry out, yeah.
Week 4, he's since week 4 he's been running back 8, 2, 3, 7, 6, and then 1 this week. So I mean, obviously there's no one really more consistent than that. But besides Henry when he was in there, but yeah, he's been absolutely incredible and perhaps the very best. I mean, you look at the top guys, Kamara, obviously Henry going down, McCaffrey just come back from injury. Obviously, you love McCaffrey, but with that offense, I'm not even sure. I might this offense is looking better for sure. Wentz is definitely better than Darnold at this point. Offensive line.
Cook isn't necessarily living up to what you wanted.
And... so you look at all these guys, and I'm not so sure that Taylor's not number 1. Honestly, Harris has been really good in Pittsburgh as well. I mean, I'm sure Eckler. It's been good. Like, there's a lot of like top 5 or 6 guys that are really, really good. This guy might be the best.
And he's the guy that I would say of the drafted top 10 running backs this season, probably was the most questioned by the most people. Like if you asked anybody, hey, who in the top 10 isn't going to finish in the top 10? I bet he would have been the name that came up the most. And he's turning out to be, like you said, one of the most consistent
might
guys.
have been. I think Barkley was in there just because of injury and stuff.
Injuries, yes.
But assuming like everybody stayed healthy and stuff, I think there was a lot of people down on Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, he was top 5 last year, and he was drafted down at 9, so people didn't think he would, do that again.
They didn't know to believe it.
And he's been incredible. But we spent a lot of times on Jonathan Taylor. Really, Hines though, as the second guy on the field half the time. I mean, this offense looked good. I know, it was against the Jets, but Wentz has been playing really well. I mean, I don't have the numbers yet, what he was quarterback this week, but just looking at his probably 20. He had over 20.
He's 5 as of right now.
Okay, so quarterback 5, and he's been since week 5. He's been quarterback 9, 13, 10, 11, and then now 5. We'll see if that's where he finishes or not. But yeah, he's been really good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What position you want to do next? We got a little bit of quarterback, a little bit of wide receiver.
Let's do wide receiver because I don't think I think that's a little more interesting.
Yeah. So the big name that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about this week is Zacharias there in Atlanta. I'm just gonna start off what I'm saying by saying I think this was a massive fluke. 3 catches, 2 touchdowns. We were wondering if somebody was gonna step up with Ridley out. I don't think that's what's happening here. I think it was just a fluke. And it's just a name that I think is going to be brought up a lot. He was the number 4 wide receiver right now in rankings. And it's just one of those things. I wanted to bring his name up pretty much to tell you, like, don't buy into it. Let somebody else waste their waiver claim on him.
Olamide Zacchaeus, I think. I'm not sure. But 3 for 58, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, he only had 3 targets as well. So... not a name. This is definitely Patterson and Pitts, obviously as receiving.
Yeah.
Russell Gage would be the next guy. If you in a deeper, he has 7 for 64. Nice game for him on 8 targets. Gage is involved in the offense quite a bit, and then even Sharp, who only had 1 target here, but was on the field 80% of the time, all ahead of Zacchaeus here. So he did have the 2 touchdowns, but. A name,
I understand the temptation.
Russell
a top
Gage,
5 guy,
I think is kind of interesting, honestly. But I think he's more. He'll go under the radar because he, had 13 points, but 8 targets. Atlanta. I think the offense is doing pretty well. I think it's a solid offense. Patterson's obviously stealing the show. He's been just incredible. Another amazing game. He's just because he's a running back, but gets wide receiver numbers and receives. So he's just so valuable. Maybe even in your league, he might be considered both. So
I know I can speak for CBS. If you play on CBS, which honestly you probably shouldn't because it's weird to play there. But my main league is on CBS and he counts as both, so I'm glad at least for that.
Yeah, so yeah, I would definitely, if I was ranking the hierarchy, obviously Patterson, and then you have Kyle Pitts, and then you probably, I guess, would have Mike Davis as like options in the offense, and then probably Russell Gage and Tajay Sharp. So so he's probably like a sixth option, and then Hayden
and there's
Hurst
still a
down there as
chance
well.
Ridley comes back. So
and Ridley
he's
might
just
be
not a
back in
guy.
a couple weeks. So.
Yeah, don't get sucked in is all I wanted to say.
Oh yeah, so he had what 20 points this week. So
yeah, I mean,
nothing really to.
I understand the temptation, just don't do it.
It'd be his best week, his best game of the season. So
there's a chance it's the best game of his career. So, what do you got wide receiver wise?
One more name, DeAndre Hopkins wasn't able to go. He's a guy who always found a way to go, but this week he wasn't able to go. Kyler also being out. Hopefully this is just a one-game thing. Hopkins doesn't miss games, so I'm expecting he'll be back. It was a game time decision as well. That generally means we had it with Dak last week where the game time decision, if they're waiting till close to kickoff, they're like, okay, they're out, they're probably going to go the following week. So I would expect him to go against Carolina. And honestly, against Carolina, I kind of think I'm kind of feeling like this is going to be a big Hopkins game. I think we're due for one. I would not be shocked if this is one of those 30-yard 9-catch game by Hopkins. So we haven't seen one of those this week or this year. And I think I'm just trying to bring it because I'm a big Hopkins fan, but it's got to happen sometime. He's super talented, obviously. Yeah. So he's still one of the best. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. The production just hasn't shown.
Yeah. On the pass catchers, I just want to throw this out there. Check your league. Logan Thomas could be out there. They were on bye. He's been injured. There's a chance he's out there, and if he's out there, snag him.
He's a very
he should
solid
be back,
chance that
he's going to be a top wide receiver. I believe right after he comes, or tight end right after he comes back.
Yeah, he's a top 10 guy last the season, so they just had their bye as well. So yeah, you got the bye.
There's just a lot of things that could lead to a guy with that much talent being on the waiver when he shouldn't be.
Yeah, so I mean he's probably owned in half the leagues or so, but yeah, I know I keep seeing him in a lot of waiver and I almost was like, why is he even included? Because I'm like, no way he's not owned. Like it seems ridiculous, but
it does.
All these waiver wire columns that people write always include him, so I'm like, I guess maybe he's not owned in some of these leagues because everybody's writing about him. He should be owned. I hope he is owned in your league. I mean, I hope he's not for your, but he should be. Like what are we doing if he's not owned?
Yeah, 100%.
Also, Jerry Jeudy. We'll talk more about this, but Jerry Jeudy came back. Really, Denver just beat down Cowboys. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But Jerry Jeudy, second game back, looks really good. This wide receiver core in Denver. I'll talk more about this tomorrow.
Yeah,
I am super high on them. I mean, this may be
you've been big on them all year.
The best trio of wide receivers in the NFL is just like from like top to bottom. Patrick, Jeudy, Sutton, they're really good. I don't know if there's as a third wide receiver. I don't know who the third best one is there. Maybe Patrick. I don't even know. But they're all, as a third wide receiver, he might be the best, most talented one, whoever that third guy is. So good to see Jeudy back as a value-wise. I mean, if any of those guys are out there, I think they're all solid. It's going to be frustrating because Sutton didn't have a good day this week. You're going to have those weeks, but they're all really talented. So I don't love Teddy Bridgewater. I feel like if they had a really solid quarterback, this offense would be so good. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. I love the duo there. Noah Fant, fantastic trio. It's just the quarterback is just not there. So
it's almost like the quarterback is really important in the NFL.
I'm not. Teddy's all right. He's fine. But this team. I mean, I'm impressed because I said it was going to be a blowout. I just thought I didn't expect it to be. I did say I thought this game had a chance to be a blowout. Did not expect it to go that way though.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, I know we have at least 2 we want to glance on. My first one I want to talk about. It's kind of weird because we only played 2 series this week, but we saw a heck of a game from him last week in Mike White. And there's no one talking about it. He was number 3 last week. He was number 22 this week. He played 2 series, and he was number 22 this week.
Looked fantastic.
Josh Johnson, who took over from him, took over for him, was number 4 on the week. Like, this offense can obviously do something when they don't have Wilson at the helm. Like, I don't like to be, I'm not you. I don't like to rip on quarterbacks and be super mad about a certain quarterback. Like, I don't like to do that, but like, it is very obvious what this offense can do when they have a competent quarterback out there. Like, if Mike White is out there and you're in this game where you don't have one of the top guys and maybe you're playing with quarterbacks, Mike White could be a guy you start. Like, this offense, obviously, with a decent quarterback, can do something.
Yeah, I mean, I loved what I saw with Mike White, and unfortunately got injured in this game. But yeah, and obviously the week before in week 8, he's looked like the draft, the top draft pick for the Jets. Like, they're like, wow, this looks incredible. Is that Zach Wilson? No, it's Mike White. Who knew?
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like what I've seen. I don't know if I really is 26-year-old quarterback. I don't know if, like, what I'm seeing, maybe he is really good. I feel like it's maybe just a little, I don't even want to say luck, but I don't really know how to explain it. I'm not sure if it's repeatable.
I'll take luck.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they play the problem is they play the Bills this week, and he might be the quarterback, and he could very well have a terrible game because that's what a lot of quarterbacks do when they face Buffalo.
Crazy.
Their defense is very good, so he could have a terrible game, and then it's back to Zach Wilson. They're like, oh, okay, Mike White. People are going to write off Mike White. And I'm like, I kind of want to see some more of him, not against, one of the best defenses in the league. So that's unfortunate. But this is a pretty tough play this week.
This week's a little rough.
And then Zach Wilson, if this week doesn't go well, Zach Wilson, good chance he's back in there. So, yeah. I'd like to see more because fantasy-wise, I think Mike White as a quarterback for fantasy is much more intriguing. And Elijah Moore, Keelan Cole, all these guys are way more interesting. The offense overall, Michael Carter in week 8 had a crazy good game. I think it was week 8. Not as good a game this week, but okay game. But yeah, they're all way more intriguing with Mike White. And even Josh Johnson, I mean, they slung it 41 times. I mean, I've talked about this. I love it when teams he threw it 41, Mike White threw it 11. They threw it 52 times this game. For fantasy, those are the types of offenses you want to be a part of. You want stock. Who would have said you want stock in the Jets offense? If you're throwing it 52 times with Mike White, I think, how many of these guys are interesting? Elijah Moore, interesting. Corey Davis, if he's healthy, obviously super interesting. Keelan Cole, they're all interesting. The 2 running backs, Michael Carter and Ty Johnson, both interesting. All could be really nice plays. Instead, we'll probably get back to Zach Wilson. It just stinks that they're playing Buffalo this week, though. Again, it's like this could all just go away, and we'll back to the Jets. It's just I'm not a Jets fan, but it seems like it because I'm so giddy about it. Like I want to see what this offense can do with Mike White.
Yeah, yes, it could all go away. I want to give him some props on here. I mean, the guy played 2 series. He outscored Joe Burrow. He outscored Mac Jones. He outscored Tyrod Taylor. Like, he outscored Justin Fields. Like, he outscored guys that
Justin Fields still
played entire games. I know that. This list apparently updates as we go. So now you know when we're recording. So
I mean, he probably will outscore Justin Fields.
That's the thing. Yeah, am I wrong? Like, okay, it's halftime and Justin Fields isn't doing anything. So,
yeah. So something again, Mike White. Maybe
if he plays and it's not the Bills. Like, I think he's a guy you could put in there.
You never know. It's in New York. It's at the Jets, I should say, and be more specific there.
It's definitely in New York. I could have told you that.
Yeah, that's true. But at the Jets. So we'll see. Obviously, there will be a lot of Buffalo fans there. They travel quite well. So, and not that they have to travel very far. So, at the Jets should be an interesting game. I'm not saying it won't be a blowout because I think the Bills are obviously clearly the better team after what they put out this past week. I would not be surprised if they do blow the Jets out, but I still am going to be. It's weird to be interested in the Jets, but I do want to see.
Well, after what the Bills did last, and after what the Bills did last week.
And then some other names like streaming options, quarterback names. One, Trevor Lawrence. Unfortunately, I'm like the biggest Trevor Lawrence fan.
Yeah, played him this week. It went really well for me.
I don't know what's going on. Like, he's been a disappointment. Like, I feel like he's not played. Some of the defenses haven't been necessarily the best defenses, and he continues not to do well. This obviously playing against Buffalo, that was a great defense, but I mean, I'm
Well, he went
expecting
down
more.
too.
I mean,
So
yeah, he didn't play quite the whole game. He played most of it though, right? It was a very short down. Like
I
Beathard only,
think it.
Beathard only had 2 passes. So yeah, but
Oh,
yeah, he
did he?
only threw
Okay,
for
I thought he
100.
went out a
He
little
only
earlier
threw
than
for
that.
100 yards. Not his best game. They won, so it could be. They obviously were very conservative. Their defense was playing really well. Josh Allen had a crazy good game. The defensive one, Josh Allen on Josh Allen there. First time a player with the same name sacked a quarterback. It's, like, so
I saw the 800 stories
times
about it.
they talked about that. Yeah,
They loved it.
They did love that. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence has been a disappointment. I do think this could be the week where he against the Colts. I think he could have a really solid game here, but I don't love that play. But you're tough here. Like Heineke against Tampa Bay is not bad. So Washington, Tampa Bay's pass defense isn't fantastic, so I don't hate that play. Darnold has, should be, probably been dropped now against Arizona. Like if he's been terrible, so you want to stay away from that. Like there's just, I don't really love a lot of the plays. Is there any quarterbacks? I mean, we talked about obviously Matt Ryan, if he's available, he's probably not, but going against Dallas, you like that. Baker Mayfield going against in New England, so I don't love it. I did really like the way he looked. Again, it's not necessarily a fantasy relevance. Maybe it will be eventually, but it's weird how Odell leaving. It's like Baker Mayfield for some reason is a much better quarterback. Even though even though Odell's not involved in the offense, it's just like I almost feel like Baker has some sort of he needs to be the guy. Like not so much as like a cocky thing, but like he's the leader. And Odell I don't think Odell was necessarily a bad teammate, but there's just two personalities that were too big. And it seems like with Baker, I mean, it's only one game, but every time he seems like he plays without Odell, he plays so much better. And it's not like Odell is a terrible receiver. I mean, we haven't been high on him, especially from a fantasy perspective, but it's not like he's better than a lot of receivers in the NFL. He's better than some of the guys that Cleveland puts out there as wide receivers. But for whatever reason, he plays so much better. So I don't know, against New England, if this will be a fantastic day for Baker, but I do think he is somebody who I wouldn't be shocked if we see a lot better day. I don't know. He's a much better quarterback without Odell. So
it does seem to trend that way.
He was maybe the best quarterback in Week 9, just as a pure play, like just playing wise. He was really good against Cincinnati, a game that I think a lot of people thought would have been a lot closer. So he played really well, and one of the best, if not the very best quarterback in Week 9. So so like again, another one like again maybe not fantasy relevant, but when you're going down the waiver, you're looking for a streaming option. I think Baker will play well. So I think he'll play well against New England. I mean, there's not a lot of quarterbacks you look and you're like, no. I think they'll play well.
Well, and luckily, like, there's really only one quarterback you could be playing on bye week this week. Like a guy you've been just
you
throwing out there every week.
You probably have your guy.
Yeah. Burrow's the only one that you might be playing on a regular basis because it's Chicago, Cincinnati, New York, Houston. Like those other three guys, almost nobody's playing them on a week-to-week basis. So, and I honestly think there's probably not a ton of leagues where Burrow is an every week guy. So, yeah, luckily not a lot of great matchups, but if there's not going to be, this is a week. The teams on bye this week make it so.
Yeah.
At least you're hopefully not in that situation.
And Russell Wilson is back. It looks like looks like he'll be back, and Aaron Rodgers I think will be back as well. So this 4:00 game, Seattle at Green Bay, obviously a
lot better than if they played this week.
This is not Seattle's 3-5, Green Bay is 7-2, but I think you can, especially if Russell plays, it tells you a lot about what Vegas thinks of Russell Wilson compared, like the fact that, or just maybe they think Seattle's a much better team than their record. Green Bay is only a 4-point favorite, and Green Bay should have beaten Kansas City. If Rodgers played that game, they would have beaten Kansas City. There's no doubt about it. They were clearly better team, and that Mahomes was not great. Rodgers would have made a huge difference. They would have won that game. So the fact that they're a slight favorite at home against Seattle, flying cross country, I think that tells you a lot about what they think of Russell Wilson and what he brings to this offense. And I do think, I think that line is fair, 4 points. I would not be a game I would be betting. I think Russell Wilson I think there's a good chance he has a great game if he's back. And I love Lockett, and I think Lockett and Metcalf are immediate plays again. Lockett had a great day this, when we last seen him. So I think, and Metcalf will, Metcalf is Metcalf. So I think
they take a good jump.
I think they'll both be really good this week, and it'd be nice to have Wilson back. Should be a really good game, I think. Even though I don't think Seattle's, they're 3-5, but I don't think the records really matter here. You got two great quarterbacks, great receiving core from Seattle, Green Bay, obviously, great running game. So I think it should be a really good game.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. So, you got anything else before I wrap this up? That's all I have.
Injury wise, don't waiver wise. I mean, I think we pretty much.
Yeah, we're so deep in the season. Waiver wise, you're really stretching. So, we appreciate you guys stopping by. If you made it this far, thank you very much. It means a lot to us. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. We're putting out 5 episodes a week. Last week was a little different. We did record an episode for Friday. That was immediately null and void with Parker going out, so we didn't even bother putting it up. And then cards on the table. I completely forgot we were going to record one to put up on Saturday. So we're kind of messing with our recording schedule and kind of threw us off. So we'll be back at it 5 times this week. And come back tomorrow. We're going to go through every game of the upcoming week, game by game, see how everything goes, starting with Baltimore and Miami on Thursday. And then the other 3 episodes are kind of up in the air for what we'll throw out there. But hit us subscribe if you haven't, leave us a comment, really helps us out. And we very much appreciate you guys swinging by.
Yeah, like you said, I completely forgot to mention that Parker. Yeah, Devontae Parker. That was the Friday episode. That didn't work. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Should be back 5 days a week this week. So definitely be hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. Notifications, all that, comment, it all helps us out. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Come back tomorrow for the full fantasy outlook of every game. See ya.
Yep.